Now we are starting with the concept, the difference between the intermediate goods and the final goods. As the name suggested, intermediate goods. Okay? It means they are in some, I can say, in the middle stage of the production. So basically, intermediate goods, first I'll define what is intermediate goods, then I'll explain you also. Intermediate goods are basically those goods which are purchased by one production unit from another production unit, either for the purpose of resale or completely used up during the same year. The first thing in this definition that we have to understand that intermediate goods are purchased by the production unit. Who will purchase the intermediate goods? Production unit will purchase the intermediate goods. For what purpose? Either for resale purpose, or either firm use it completely for the production purpose. Either firm use it completely for the production purpose. That goods are basically called intermediate goods. So इंटरमीडिएट गुड्स वो गुड्स होते हैं जो एक प्रोडक्शन यूनिट दूसरे प्रोडक्शन यूनिट से परचेज करता है, या तो उसको आगे रीसेल करने के लिए या फिर उसका कंप्लीटली यूज्ड अप करने के लिए ड्यूरिंग द सेम ईयर, then that goods are called your intermediate goods. For example, bread purchased by a bakery shop. Bread purchased by a bakery shop. So either the bakery shop will resell that bread to the consumers, simple, intermediate good, or either a bakery shop use it completely to make cakes, to make sandwiches. So basically either completely used up हो रहा है, either हम उसी चीज को आगे resell कर रहे हैं, then that goods are called intermediate goods. That goods are called intermediate goods. For example, food item purchased by a hotel. Food item purchased by a hotel is also an intermediate good, because either the hotel will sell the food item to the customer directly, or process that food and convert it into the another, I can say, into the finished goods and then sell the commodity. So basically, intermediate goods are those goods which are purchased by one production unit from another. First, either for the purpose of resale or completely used up during the same year. If I say, for example, I say that fertilizer purchased by a farmer. So fertilizer, farmer will completely used up the fertilizer to make wheat or to make rice, something. So it is completely used up. That's why it's an intermediate good. So you have to understand one thing. Intermediate goods firm purchase करती है, या तो उसको आगे resale करने के लिए और या फिर उसका completely used up करने के लिए during the same year. For example, raw material purchased by a firm, intermediate, because उसका completely used up करके उसको आगे resale करेगी, ठीक है ना? So that goods are basically called intermediate goods. Similarly, electricity expenditure by the firm, transportation expenditure by the firm. These transportation services are completely used up. Electricity expenditure, electricity is completely used up during the month. So that's why they are basically called intermediate goods or intermediate services, which are purchased by the firm either for the purpose of resale or completely used up during the same year. When I talk about the final goods, final goods are those goods which are purchased by consumer for consumption and investment by production unit. One thing we have to keep in mind, if consumer purchases anything, either refrigerator, either wheat purchased by a consumer, either car purchased by a consumer, they are final good. Consumer always purchase for the purpose of consumption. That's why the goods purchased by the consumer is always a final good. So final good are either purchased by consumer for consumption or purchased by business for the investment purpose. Purchased by production unit or purchased by firm, you can say for the purpose of investment, then they are called final good. And they are basically the long-term assets that the firm purchase. These are basically called final goods. I have just given you one example. Bread purchased by a bakery shop. Bread purchased by a bakery shop, it is a final good. Sorry, bread purchased by a bakery shop, it is an intermediate good. Why? Because bakery shop will completely use up the bread to make sandwiches or to for the resale purpose. But when I say that bread purchased by a consumer, bread purchased by a consumer, then it is a final good. Then it is a final good. Machine purchased by a firm. Machine purchased by a firm is a final good. Why it is a final good? Because machine is a long-term investment. Firm is not selling the machine. Firm is not selling the machine. Firm is making goods from the machine. So machine is a long-term investment which the business has. So the purchase of machine by a firm is an investment, and investment is a final good. So I hope you understood this point. Final goods are purchased by consumer for consumption and investment by production unit. That goods are called final goods. Consumer तो कुछ भी खरीदे final good कहलाता है. But when I talk about the business, business उसको purchase करता है अगर investment purpose के लिए तो वो final good है. और business अगर purchase करता है उसको resale करने के लिए या फिर उसका completely used up करने के लिए during the same year तो वो intermediate good होता है. अभी I'll give you one example. For example, stationery purchased by your school. Stationery purchased by your school is an intermediate good. Why? Because stationery, pen, pencil, register they purchase, है ना? So basically that is completely used up during the same year. है ना? हर साल की नई stationery आती है. So stationery purchased by the school is an intermediate good, and school is a firm. ठीक है ना? School basically works as a business for economics, है ना? So basically stationery purchased by the school is the intermediate good. But when I say smart board purchased by your school, when I say smart board purchased by your school, smart board is basically not purchased for the purpose of resale and also not purchased and not used during the same year. It is a long-term investment. And I have already told you investment is a final good. Investment is a final good that you have to keep in mind. Fertilizer purchased by a farmer is an intermediate good. But the tractor purchased by the farmer is an investment. It is a final good. Understood? Bread purchased by a bakery shop is an intermediate good. But the machine purchased by a bakery shop to make cakes, it is an investment. Investment is a final good. So you have to understand intermediate goods क्या होते हैं, final goods क्या होते हैं. I am repeating the definition once more. Intermediate goods are purchased by one production unit from another production unit either for the purpose of resale or completely used up during the same year. That goods are called intermediate goods. But when I talk about the final goods are purchased by consumer for consumption. Consumer कुछ भी खरीदे final है. And purchased by business for the purpose of investment, they are called final good. So I'll give you one more example. Petrol purchased by a taxi driver. Petrol purchased by a taxi driver. What is it? It is an intermediate good. Why? Because petrol is completely used up and used for the purpose of what? Used for the purpose of driving, and he'll charge the payment from the customer. So basically petrol is completely used up. It is an intermediate good. But when I talk to you, a taxi purchased by a taxi driver, taxi को तो नहीं बेच रहा ना, taxi का completely used up हो जाएगा. Simple. So taxi purchased by a taxi driver is a long-term investment, and investment is a final. And when I say that car purchased by a household, wheat purchased by the household or consumer purchase anything considered to be a final good. I hope the concept is clear to you. Even you have any doubt, you can mention in the comment box and you can call me also. When I talk about the nature, the value of intermediate goods is not included in the national income. Value of intermediate good is not included in the national income because its value is already in the value of final goods. ब्रेड की वैल्यू ऑलरेडी सैंडविचेस में इंक्लूडेड है, जो बेकरी शॉप उसको सेल आउट कर रही है कंज्यूमर को. अंडरस्टूड. ट्रांसपोर्टेशन एक्सपेंडिचर बाय द फर्म, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी एक्सपेंडिचर बाय द फर्म, ये सब ऑलरेडी फाइनल कॉस्ट में इंक्लूड, फाइनल गुड में वैल्यूज के इंक्लूडेड है. तो वैल्यू ऑफ इंटरमीडिएट गुड्स is not included in the national income. When I talk about the final good, the value of final good is included in the national income. So fertilizer purchased by a farmer is not included in the national income. Petrol purchased by a taxi driver not included in the national income. Stationery purchased by the school is not included in the national income because they are intermediate goods. But smart board purchased by your school is included in the national income. Taxi purchased by a taxi driver is included in the national income. Machine purchased by a firm is included in the national income. So because they are final goods, When I talk about the next difference, intermediate goods are within the production boundary. Intermediate goods are within the production boundary. ये production boundary में ही है अभी. जो ब्रेड से सैंडविचेस बनेंगे वो अभी ब्रेड इज स्टिल अंडर द प्रोडक्शन बाउंड्री. जो फर्टिलाइजर से व्हीट बाद में प्रोड्यूस होगा वो फर्टिलाइजर आर स्टिल इन द प्रोडक्शन बाउंड्री. बट व्हेन आई टॉक अबाउट द फाइनल गुड, दे आर आउट ऑफ द प्रोडक्शन बाउंड्री, दे आर आउट ऑफ द प्रोडक्शन बाउंड्री बिकॉज वो कंज्यूमर के लिए रेडी है गुड उसके कंज्यूम करने के लिए, है ना. दे आर उसका प्रोडक्शन हो चुका है, उसमें और प्रोसेस नहीं होना. That's why they are called final goods. Understood? ऐसे ही बिजनेस भी अगर मशीन परचेज कर रहा है, ना तो वो मशीन को आगे रीसेल कर रहा है, ना ही तो वो उसका कंप्लीटली यूज हो जाएगा ड्यूरिंग द सेम ईयर. मशीन इज फाइनली प्रिपेयर्ड, अब उसमें और कोई प्रोसेसिंग नहीं है मशीन में, तो मशीन इज ऑल्सो कंसिडर्ड टू बी अ फाइनल गुड व्हेन इट इज परचेज बाय अ फर्म. ठीक है, you have to keep in mind. हाँ, अगर ऐसा बोलते हैं if machine is purchased by a machine dealer, यहाँ पे मेंशन कर दिया मशीन डीलर ने मशीन परचेज करी, तो मशीन डीलर will purchase machine for the purpose of resale, then machine is considered to be an intermediate. But if it is only written machine purchased by a firm, you have to consider that as an investment, and investment is a final